So I just recently got a vintage Singer sewing machine, but some things were fairly difficult to figure out, so I want to show you how I figure these things out so that hopefully it's easier for you. So kind of like the important main thing is the serial number, and this tells you a lot. Now on ones before a certain time, the serial number will not have a letter. So mine is G5, and then 1, 3, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and so before the 1900s, I believe, it will not have a letter. Yes, and also, this is not a model number. So the model number is different to the serial number. This is a serial number. And so how I figured out the model number, I will show you. Okay, so this is the first one I used. And so this, I put in the serial number, and then it dates it. So that was really useful, so I can see that it was made in 1917. And then the second website that I used was this one. And oh my gosh, this was so useful. I'll put both these links in the description. But you basically go through and you answer questions. And so it's like, oh, well, does your machine look like this? Look yes or no, and then it just goes through, and it's so useful. This is how I figured out my model number. So yes, yes, that's kind of like one of the main things I had trouble with was figuring out the model number. Another thing was that my sewing machine didn't come with a manual, and so I had to search for one. It wasn't actually too difficult to find a manual, but of course you needed to know the model number in order to know what manual you needed. So this was nice. I can put this down below, but of course it depends on what machine you had. So I just printed out this manual and made a little book. And yeah, I like the manual. So I mean, if you have the manual, you don't really need the next part I'm going to show you, but I'm just going to show you how to thread the machine I have, which is model number 127. Okay, so we have our thread. I believe this is called a bullet shuttle, and so it goes in like this. So this is what mine looks like. And then you have your bobbin, and so it's a funny shape. So I'll show you how to wind the bobbin, how to thread it, and then I'll also show you like kind of a little bit on how to like sew with it, because it is a little bit more complicated because of our wheel. So I'll show you how to do the bobbin. Okay, my filming situation is a little awkward, but here we go. So you have your thread, your bobbin case. I think it's like a bullet shuttle, I think it's called. And that just goes in here. And then you have your bobbin, which is like a kind of a funky shape. So to thread it, you're just going to put your thread on top, just how you normally would. Then it comes up and over here, and it goes through this little loopy thing right there. Okay, and now I'm going to, for winding our bobbin, I'm going to now let go of that, and I'm going to pull this back. This is where we're going to wind our bobbin. So I'm going to pull this back, and I'm going to stick it in so that it all lines up like that, so it's nice, and then it's not going to move around. Oh, so you can hear I didn't have it in, so it doesn't move around. And now you're going to go back and grab your thread and stick it through underneath there so that it's kind of clamped in and it's not going to move. So it's just in between this part and the actual bobbin. Now my bobbin doesn't have a hole in the top. Some bobbins have a hole in the top, and if that's the case for you, you can just stick the thread through the top of the bobbin, and that will keep it in place. Okay, but now we're just going to put our thread through this little bit here, and we want to make sure it's to the far right. You have to move this up like this, and this is how we engage it for sewing. So now that is up, and when we turn our wheel, it's going to move with the rubber like this, okay? Now we can also grab onto our wheel and turn this little bit here towards us, and that should disengage the sewing. So, in theory, it will not move the needle while we're doing this. So this is touching the belt here, and this is going to now sew with us. So if we turn this forward, we can see that this is going to wind, and as we go, it should wind our bobbin. So, oh, and another thing, we want to make sure that we're spinning the wheel forward. If it spins backward, it undoes it. So we have to make sure that the wheel is going forward. That is very important. So I have a camera on my lap, so let me see. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're going to spin it forward. And so you can just do this with your hand if you want, but you can use your feet as well. That's what they're there for, to make it easier. And so you can see as it moves across, your part here is also moving, so it's going to move side to side. An important thing to remember is when we start and finish, we want to have this to the far right. So as far as it goes. Now for me, it's challenging to use my feet because this rubber isn't very, you can see it's quite loose and hard because it's very old. And so because it's on the band, it makes it kind of harder to use my feet. So I'm kind of mainly using just the hand wheel. But if yours works, then use your feet as well. I can assume that would be much easier. Okay, so we'll go back over to the far right. All right, there we go. So now we can just take this off, pull out our bobbin like this, and there we go. So now we can just cut our thread, and there we go. We have wound our bobbin. So now we have to put it in the bobbin case. So we have our bobbin like this, and so mine's becoming a little loose here. So you can see, so I can just kind of try and fix that a little bit. When it's in the bobbin case, you want to make sure that when you pull the string, it goes counterclockwise. So it's going backwards. So you want to make sure that it's not going, whoops, clockwise. And if it is going clockwise, you can just flip it upside down, and all is well. And you also want to make sure that when it's going counterclockwise and you're pulling on the string is at the top. So if you've just wound your bobbin, you just want to keep it so the string is at the top side. So now you can take your bobbin shuttle, you stick it in, bloop, and now you can see this line on the side. You want to pull the string all the way down to the bottom. Sorry, this isn't focusing. All the way down to the bottom, and you're going to hold on top so that it doesn't go and let go more thread, and you're going to pull it down until you kind of hear a click, then pull it up, and you can see it's now trapped behind there. And so now you can see if you pull on it a little bit, it spins counterclockwise. But if you just let go and let it hang, it doesn't move. So you know you're done right. Now, move this out of the way. When we put it in, we want to make sure that this is all the way to the front. Oh, and we should also pull this back down so that it's no longer on the band, and this can move. Okay, so now you want to make sure that this is all the way at the front. You may have to hold the pedals at the bottom with your feet, just so that you don't crush your fingers. And you just put in the tip first, and then it'll just go in. You want to make sure that the screw is on the top side, and then you're good. Okay, so now you can close the first one regularly. Make sure it's not caught here, so it's just open like that. And then the back one, leave it so that there's enough room for the thread to move. That's important. Now we can thread our top thread. So we can just leave it on the top like this and with it through this hole here. Okay, so now we're going to come down. We're going to put it kind of on the track here. We're going to bring it around counterclockwise like this. And then take the end of the thread and it goes through the loop here. Oops. So there we go. It should look like that. Okay, so now thread can go front to back through this loop here. Like that. It's going to go behind this little bit here, just like on a regular modern machine. Now we're going to go left to right through the needle. There we go. So one more step before we can sew. We have to bring our bobbin thread up to the top. So we're going to leave this untucked from the foot. Hold onto it and turn the wheel towards you so the needle goes down and comes back up. And when it comes back up to the top, pull on the thread and your bobbin thread should be there. And there we go. You can make it a little bit longer so that it's easier. Now you can start sewing if you know how to sew with this machine. If not, let me show you. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you've sewn before, you just don't know how to sew with this machine. So basically, this wheel needs to go forward all the time. It cannot go backward. If it goes backward, your top thread will break and you'll pretty much undo your work. Another thing you should know is that it doesn't back stitch. So you have to kind of tie your knots a different way, or like turn around your fabric and go forward and then turn around and go forward again if you really want to do it that way. So yes, so you want to start by turning your wheel towards you, and then you can start pedaling. So how I like to do it is I have one foot back like this and my other foot forward, and I just go forward and back and forward and back like that. And that's kind of the positioning that works best for me. So let me get a piece of fabric and I will show you. Okay, so I just got some of this fabric in here. So underneath, you put down your presser foot. Then you make sure that your feet are properly positioned on the pedals. I'm going to move the camera here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my wheel forward. So I'm going to bring it forward like this. And then I'm going to use my feet to start sewing. Can you see? No. Okay. So I will show you again. I'm going to turn the wheel. And I'm going to start using my feet. And I'm going to go forward. And I'm just going to sew like normal. To turn a corner, you want to, and when you stop, you want to make sure you grab the wheel and make sure you don't move it. And then you can just let go after that. And to stop, you just stop like you normally would on an electric machine. Now to turn a corner, you want to make sure your needle is down. And it's basically like how you normally do it. You pick up your presser foot, turn your fabric, you put your presser foot down, start sewing. Now when you start sewing again, you want to make sure that your wheel goes forward. You can do even like a little bit with your hand, just to make sure that your wheel remains forward. And then stop. And then you can press your foot, turn a corner, put the presser foot down, and then turn your wheel, make sure you're going the right way, and then just sew. Right, and I find it's almost easier to go faster on these machines, but it's preference. So now when you're done, lift up your foot, make sure your needle's at the top, just makes it easier. Then you can pull your fabric away. Now, this little part here is meant for cutting thread, but mine isn't very sharp, so sometimes it takes a couple tries. But you can just use scissors as well. There we go. And you can, well, I've done multiple stitches here. You can see they're nice, clean stitches, and yeah, it's very nice. Now, I highly recommend practicing without any thread in your machine, and just making sure that your wheel goes the correct way, because obviously this is forwards and this is backwards, forwards being towards you. And if it goes backwards like this is now, your thread is going to break. So that's why you want to practice without any thread in your machine. You can start by just turning your wheel forward, and then you just want to practice and then stop, grab your wheel, take your feet off, let go. Make sure that doesn't happen. So we start again, we're going to turn forwards, make sure that our feet are going to pedal properly, and just stop, grab on, hold for a couple seconds so that it all balances out, and you can let go. Alright, and yeah, I just recommend going through that, practicing. You can go slowly if I try and go kind of more slowly here, but if you go too slowly, then you can stop, and then you have a greater chance of accidentally making your wheel go backwards, and then forwards, and then backwards, and then forwards, and you don't want to do that. But yeah, that's kind of all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Bonus, to finish it so that it doesn't come undone, what you can do, see if it focuses, there we go, is take one of the threads and kind of pull it so that the loop comes out like this, and then pull that thread up to the same side. So you bring it up like this, so both threads are on the same side, and then you just knot it twice, and you're good to go.